This here is an example of a Clovis point. This point throughout eastern North America has been well dated between 13,200 and 12,900 years ago. We find these Clovis points at Smith Mountain. And after these finds, we discovered that this point type was nearly everywhere in North America.
This culture called Clovis is present across the entire North American continent that was unglaciated at the time. From Nova Scotia to California, from Minnesota to Central America, down to Panama, and even into the northern parts of South America and Venezuela. It all of a sudden appears. Well, where did it come from? How did it get here?
One of the goals at Smith Mountain, and one of its biggest contributions, is to be able to look at changes in populations over time. First, Smith Mountain provides some of the earliest evidence of people in eastern North America. We see that raw material types that people made stone tools from come from a wide area. This includes locations in Kentucky, Tennessee, Northern Virginia, North Carolina, and they all came into the sites around Smith Mountain. This marks the movement of stone over hundreds and hundreds of miles. By having a record that may document some of these first colonizers in eastern North America and moving up through time, we can see when that colonization process stops. We can see when regional adaptations developed, when people start adapting and using local resources. The sites at Smith Mountain can contribute to some of these questions.
You have to look at things in a very broad context. We're talking about the first people in the Americas, and specifically North America. And there's some new theories that people came different ways, had different ways of getting here, including across the Atlantic, which is a new theory that's being fought over by archaeologists. And I show you these three right here, artifacts. These are even though the raw materials, the stone that these are made out of, looks like it comes from Tennessee. The type of tools here look like they came from Europe. Now, we don't know that that's the case, okay? It's just what we would call a working hypothesis that could be wrong. But unless we investigate these very carefully and find other tools that fit, and maybe even stone, Smith Mountain Gap offers the opportunity to get that kind of material in good context.
For over 100 years, archaeologists search for evidence of the first Americans. Yet we do not know how and when these first populations came to North and South America. One of the potential contributions of Smith Mountain is being able to locate the numerous unique projectile points that have not been dated in secure geological context. Looking at the relationships between different lancelet point types to see where they fit in prehistory. If we can do this, we can directly date a number of projectile point styles that have not been dated across the North American continent. This could lead to a better understanding of the first people in eastern North America.
The importance of Smith Mountain Gap is that it contains some of the earliest artifacts yet found in the Americas, dating, we think, back as much as 20,000 years, conceivably even older. The initial people that, for many years, for 70 years, from the 1930s on, it was thought that people hadn't gotten here in the Americas much before 13,000 years ago. A site in Virginia called Cactus Hill put that date back to 18 to 20,000 years. So in effect, what we have before that time was something like this table, a dark past that we didn't know anything about. The Cactus Hill site opened a little window in that, so we have a little bit of light showing through. Then other sites have opened little windows into the past, but that all these different kinds of stone are coming into this one area for some reason. You don't find this on many sites. This is rare to see these kinds of stone companies. They don't occur here. This does occur in this area. And this occurs in this area, this occurs here. But most of this stuff doesn't. What Smith Mountain Gap offers us, because those people were all isolated in terms of what we know, Smith Mountain Gap offers us a context for them, or a way to address how those people interacted with each other in space. But also because we get, like this show, the artifact show here, we get different time periods. It shows how this group moved and became this, or related to this group, is related to this group, maybe related to this group through what may be 10,000 years, because this represents about 10,000 years of the past, from about 20,000 to about 10,000 years ago. We want to not only know things horizontally, we also want to know them through time.
Here at the museum, we are one of the two repositories for archaeological materials that the state sponsors in Virginia. We hold approximately 6 million artifacts in trust for the citizens of the Commonwealth, including a number of archaeological materials, easily over 1 million objects just in archaeology. What we do is care for them and keep them, and then make them accessible for other researchers and for the general public, for exhibits and outreach programs, and so people can learn about our past by looking at the objects. If you think of the museum as a library and the objects like a book, if you don't have a library to take care of the book and make sure that people can check it out, you can never learn anything from it. And it's the same with our collections. Think of the collections like the books, and we make sure that they're safe and they're sound and that people can actually check them out and look at them and do research on them. What I have here is a number of the artifacts from the Smith Mountain Gap project. We've been curating those here, cleaning them and washing them and identifying them and analyzing them here in the archaeology lab at the museum, so that we can provide a clear and detailed interpretation of the site and learn more about it from the material culture. One of our missions is to provide education and outreach to the general public, in addition to making the research that we do accessible for our research colleagues. We also interpret it so that people who are not specialists and not scientists can understand what we're doing and the impact of the research that we do on their daily lives. One of the components of the Smith Mountain Gap project is to make the results of the research accessible to a broader public. One of the ways that we would like to do this is by developing an exhibit that can be held both here in-house, across the state, or throughout the entire East Coast region, can learn more about this project and the exciting research that we're doing and what it tells us about the early peopling of North America and how those people were living right here in Virginia. One of the other products that will come out of this project is at least one, if not multiple, publications. Some of those will be as presentations at conferences, some of them will be articles in scientific journals, and some of them will be as monographs or kind of longer pieces here through our publication series at VMNH. We have a publications department that does an incredible job preparing our publications, and we'll be using that for the results from this research. This is really a unique opportunity for us to partner with a group of colleagues from the very beginning of the project, so that curation and outreach concerns can be taken into account and can be planned along with the research. It's rare that all of those things get planned together. Oftentimes folks do research and you do your field work and you do your lab work, and then you go, oh wait, I really should do an exhibit or something. But in this case, we're actually planning all of this from the outset. So it makes it a really exciting project to know that all of us will be working together and sharing ideas the entire time.